to some professional StarCraft 2 from the final rounds of the ESL Pro Tour Open Cups. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm gonna call it by the correct name, which is the Big Gabe Weekly. Because he has won nearly half. At one point it was over half, but I think it's either nearly half or over half, but he's won a lot of weekly cups. And while you might think, okay, sure, he's good, but there are better players. They don't seem to show up during these weekly cups, intimidated by Gabe's massive size, unable to comprehend the gravitational pull which has an effect on their minds. This is a highlight match recommended by the people, and also the people who were there live experiencing it. But let me introduce the competitor, the underdog, as anyone is in competing in the Big Gabe Weekly against the man himself. It's Clem. Team Liquid's high-flying Frenchman with some of the best micro in the business, the macro to back it up, and a killer instinct rivaled only by players like TY, Innovation. I'd say where Heromarine sometimes historically falters is just, like, he's ridiculously fast. He's got great multitasking. It's just sometimes he can't quite keep up with the speed of, like, a Cyril or a Clem. But home ground advantage. Home tournament advantage doesn't make any. Technically, everything is Big Gabe's home because he's so large. All of the accommodations in the entire planet and the flat moon are not enough for him. Yeah, we really brought that one back. That was great. That was a good joke right there. Anyways. No proxy Rexes, no crazy tech, no super cheeses. These players just gonna sit back, build up. Nothing to change the subject dramatically off of whatever those first 2 minutes were. But instead, a good old-fashioned macro game. One. Now the question will be between 1 and 3 Ravens. Everyone has their own spin on it. I think the most common is 2 Ravens into Vikings. Everybody loves Ravens. Ravens just do everything you need them to do. Basic units like Marines just don't cut it in Terran versus Terran. Every mirror matchup is very technical. Every mirror matchup requires you to have something to match your opponent's tech. You can't just build a dozen Marines and pray, because a couple Cyclones or a tank and Liberators, and I could name every other unit that isn't Marines, and especially out of the factory in Starport, and say it's effective. Because it is. What? Heromarine is sneaking a second Rex here, though. Is this a quick stim timing from Heromarine? As I say it. I mean, it's in the name, right? But I don't know why I'm surprised here. Now, this can sometimes, like, if you're able to get stim medevacs, you can catch players off guard. That is what I think Big Gabe is opting for here. Oh yeah, here we go. We actually have, for those who don't know, Big Gabe is not only incredibly large, but he's also quite old. Fun fact. He's been around for many, many years. Here's actually a picture of him taken, I believe this was in 200 AD. A recreation of said picture, so. Stim is on the way. I'm interested to see how this plays out. Here, there are Ravens for both sides. Stim is on the way. Heromarine is going for that. But he's not going to have medevacs. So, is he going to use the Ravens to just knock out the tanks and try to get a lot of damage done? You don't usually see the second Rex quite that early. But it obviously has a purpose. He might be wanting to just kill the Ravens of his opponent. There's... Okay, well, alright. He's just gonna drop. And or push. Clem, on the other hand, more standard build. He got 3 CC. Has a unit been lost? Both players have lost a Reaper. So, yeah, TVT chess boxing. Essentially, you spend as much time as... Well, you kind of feel out the game. You figure it out. But you spend plenty of time maneuvering, building up, finding a good position, and then you start punching each other in the face. And then, assuming that nobody takes critical damage, they pull back to their corners, make a few more moves, maybe take a few more minutes, and then start punching each other in the face again. And that's how, especially Marine tank-style TVT goes, as only when you have all the pieces together in a good spot do you want to commit to an attack. Cyclone looking for a kill on the Cyclone, but countered by a Cyclone. So well played there by the Cyclone player. Scan spots it out. Waiting for your moment. Picks up, heading straight towards the main. Clem 2 seconds away from spotting this, but 2 seconds is everything. As the Marines will drop in the main, already stimming as they drop out of the medevacs. A lot of SCVs will die, and maybe Stim itself. He might be able to deny it, can target down SCVs, goes for the Raven, finds one. Auto turret, looking for so much damage. Raven number 2, come on down. Targeting SCVs now, 6 SCVs, 2 Ravens. That was worth it. I'll call it. Like, that was worth it. Heromarine gutted some economy, but the Ravens are a huge deal. That he just removed simultaneously the aggressive potential. Speaking of Ravens, I think Heromarine just lost his, but he removed the aggressive potential because if you don't have Ravens in the early game, even if he just lost 2 medevacs and Marines, siege tanks are still too strong. The Ravens are what allow you to disable / buffer against the tanks. Oh, another drop. Big Gag keeps coming in. It's drop o'clock, and he's not stopping now. The Vikings out of position as they were dealing with the Raven before. Is he actually going to siege these tanks? Now, this is incredibly awkward. Is the target fire there? Heromarine takes the first shot, but Clem takes the last one. Does he have Engie base? No upgrades. Heromarine playing fast and loose here. Both will have to go back to their corners for now. +1 is done. Working off just the first Engie base. I'm sure he's going to be adding more. The worker count. 8 more, 10 more for Big Gabe. Clem, though, I don't think he's going to be too concerned at the moment. These attacks have done damage, but it's not like he picked up and got out. That was a one-way trip. Oh, the Marines. Eating big tank shots targets. Tank does not get a third shot, which means a lot of Marines are still intact. Clem scrambles to defend. He does have Stim, but he doesn't have medevacs. Cyclone being chased down. Viking gunned out of the sky. Another scan making... I don't know if that weird scan. Clem a little panicky. I don't know what he was looking for there. Maybe... Oh, no, that was just a random scan. He had the Cyclone, I guess. But better safe than sorry. So this... Oh. So here's the situation. Clem's about to finish 1-1. He's got a 4th on the way. Heromarine will probably be getting his 4th soon. Either the game will be decided in the next minute or so, or we're going the distance. I'm predicting at least, like, somebody needs to do damage before 200, or even close to 200 spot. Let's say 180. Otherwise, we're just going to start hitting everything everywhere. I doubt either of these players is going to be equipped to take a decisive engagement. We're looking at least 15-20 minutes. The question will be, do we go to the air? Both of them are kind of hinting at air control. Heromarines building some Vikings now. He has a solid medevac count at 7. Clem already has 4 Vikings. He lost a few earlier. Neither has really committed to leveraging the air control into things like Liberators or battle cruisers. But that is the end goal. Like, if this goes on long enough, and we haven't had the big Marine tank fights yet, but that is eventually where Terran versus Terran will end up. Medevac drop. Heromarine. Marines being sacrificed heroically all throughout the map because they're much cheaper than scans. Another scan. Clem spots. There's no army there. A small drop over to the left side. Clem already establishing a planetary at his 4th. Upgrades. 2-2 on the way for both sides. Heromarine going to have quicker +2 attack, but Clem has both upgrades lined up. +1 mech weapons. Going to be also an advantage for Big Gabe. Let's look at the tank count. 7-5 in favor of the German Terran. Vikings harassed by a random squad of Marines off of the single medevac. Another random squad of Marines gunned down, but now the rest have to get out. They pick up, they boost away. Meanwhile, the army of Clem spotted. Heromarine wants to take that 4th. He needs to take that 4th. He knows he's a little behind on economy right now. Clem's going to load up, trying to get his tanks into a nice spot on the high ground. He does so. Clem going to jump the gun on this. +2 attack is done for Heromarine. That could vector in. The tanks on the high ground are pretty devastating, but the Viking count for Heromarine. The medevacs have to get out. Clem jumping the gun for sure here. I don't know if he checked the upgrades. He didn't see the Vikings. He's not going to be able to hold that position. A scan. As soon as he gets out of sensor tower range, you got to know where he's going and why he's going there. Back to our corners for a moment. Are the next pieces coming into play? A Liberator for Heromarine. He's got 2 medevacs in his main, expecting a drop. He doesn't have sensor tower coverage nor turrets, because both these players know that unlike Bronze League heroes, that turrets are just a suggestion for a player who's committed to medevacs. You can build a dozen turrets, or you can just have a few more Marines. You build a bunch of turrets and you don't have the supply on the field. Whoa, Clem! Dunks on top! A dozen, okay, not a dozen, but near it tanks. The 4th base under fire. The tanks are suddenly in range. Heromarine didn't have vision for a couple seconds. The SCV's desperately preparing a punishing volley onto the first line of Marines, cutting down a couple tanks. A bloody battle, but Big Gabe moves into position just in time to defend. The medevacs coming forward. Oh, I look away, look away. The medevacs were trying to find Marines to heal. I got bad news for them. Liberator's going to force the issue. The tanks will either have to unsiege or just go down. And Heromarine holds, but at what cost? Clem already has another army lined up and good to go. Heromarine, 73 workers. He lost some SCVs, but both of them have made more than enough. More command centers on the way for either side, despite the devastating blows there. It's barely enough. It's barely a hiccup in the production. The macro engine, the infrastructure of both these players, incredible right now. And they're on top of it even throughout these fights. You see more units being added into the production tab to replace the huge amounts being lost. Clem still chilling. Sensor tower comes up, spots it. A couple medevacs heading to the... reflex. Couple Liberators heading to the top left. Is there a fusion core for either side? I don't think so, even though with this new fancy overlay, it's a little hard for me to read through. Actually, it's easier to read through. I'm just used to the old one. Wow, it is pretty clear. You just have to actually use your eyes, which is difficult. I don't have scans for my eyes. Design flaw. Meanwhile, Marines meeting in the middle of the map. A prelude to the bigger fight. Clem not sieging up, neither side scanning. Heromarine realizes the gravity of the situation a little quicker. There's not enough units. Clem gets the hot pickup on the tanks, able to boost out and get them all onto the high ground. But it won't end here. Heromarine continues to push through. Liberators tying up a whole bunch of Marines. Big Gabe outflanked by a turret, but also outflanking Clem simultaneously. 3-3 is on the way. +3 attack is done for Heromarine. Another pickup. Is that intentional? Indeed it is. He's going on top of the tanks. Clem push back. He doesn't have tanks in position. He's losing the ones on his 3rd. Devastating blows on large groups, but once the tanks are removed, Heromarine can continue to push forward. He has a bunch of reinforcements back at home. The Marines are stimming through. The boys are pulled. Clem looking to crush this attack from all sides before reinforcements can arrive, and he does so. Loses 18 SCVs, but he holds the attack for now. There's enough Marines. Spreads out along the corners. 2 tanks on the high ground. Heromarine pushed back into the middle of the map, and Clem battles him back in a bloody blitzkrieg and is able to hold the line. The worker count down to 60, but still healthy enough to maintain his economy. The income advantage now going to go solidly towards Big Gabe, but he was routed in that fight. He lost a whole bunch of tanks. Clem now has a 5-to-1 tank advantage. Of course, they're both building 2 at a time. +2 mech weapons is done. That allows you to get kill enemy tanks in 1 less hit. Then it only takes 3 hits as opposed to 4, which is a significant advantage. Or at least an upgrade that you need to have to compete with your opponent who's going for the same thing. Looks like we're going to hold off on that air control situation. Because both these players punching each other directly in the nose repeatedly is going to preclude any sort of bigger moves. Neither is maxed out. Both have lost within 1,000 or so resources. Both have 4 or 5 bases. Despite all this, the economies and the bases themselves have been relatively untouched. Meanwhile, Heromarine chases down some tanks. He picks up Clem, gonna try to make a stand, and Heromarine actually backs off, surprisingly. Doesn't want to be caught in any sort of choke point. Another Liberator looking for an opportunity. Meanwhile, mining being denied by Heromarine. Liberator in a nice spot, could be gunned down by the main. The reinforcing Marine should be able to deal with it, but he's taking damage. There's a lot happening all at once. Heromarine forcing the mining to stop at the planetary in the top left. Reinforcements on the way. Liberator taken out. Another Liberator heading for the 4th. Clem cleans up the medevac drop, picks up, boosts away a single Marine very boldly and maybe naively going to try to take out the planetary. Clem has moved into position at the 4th. Liberator's going to force tanks out of a liberation zone. He's pushed up against his own planetary. That's a lot of tanks. Heromarine pushing the issue. Sims everything. So does Clem. Devastating damage. There's not that many tanks for Clem, and it looks like Heromarine going to be able to drive this back, losing many of his Marines in the process, but Clem losing more. Supplies still even at the end of the day. Clem going to be forced to retreat to his side of the map, and he should have time to build up before another battle begins. 3 medevac drop. Going to try to repeat the success of the last one, but here comes Clem's reinforcements. An awkward situation. Heromarine doesn't want to be caught between a rock and a hard place. Pushing forward, Clem, retreating with his small group of Marines and trying to get his tanks into position. He's also contending with the geographical challenges of these rocks. Heromarine, that is a planetary. There's 2 tanks to just 1. The scan's big. 1 shot comes out in return. Clem pushed up against his planetary, but a lot of Marines stimming forward, stutter stepping, tanks down, more reinforcements, but Heromarine routed, driven down the ramp. A Liberator, I think a Selecto Army Hockey out of Clem. Gonna find those tanks. What a scan, though. Sees the Marines coming up. The Liberator will be taken out, but Heromarine skirmishing still. The Marines and the medevac a little too close to the planetary. The Marine counts, these battles, you have to judge the battle and whether or not you can win it ridiculously quickly. You have a split second, maybe 2-3 tenths of a second, to decide whether or not you're going. Otherwise, your opponent will either do a lot of damage or take advantage of you. Heromarine goes forward. Snaps up a couple tanks. Clem driven back. Another lonely tank out on the field. Clem trying to consolidate. He has several. He has a decent position up here. They're both in the buffer zone outside of the base, but Clem obviously on the defense. Good concave. Liberator helping out. Not target fired on the tanks, but retreating to more. Pulls back, looking for more. Heromarine stepping forward a little bit too far forward, and he loses a bunch of Marines and a couple medevacs. Clem evens things up again. The brawl continues. A standoff. The counter harassment on both sides of the map has slowed down, as both players have started to run out They've started to run out of their main and natural minerals. Mules really drain them quickly. And the third is looking pretty dry as well. So they no longer have the ridiculous incomes to make all of the Marines, command centers, and whatever else at a time. We're kind of getting into the scarcity times, as Starcraft does, where the main bases are mining out and units become much more precious. Speaking of precious, having fresh bases to mine from, and Heromarine does not have a sensor tower here. The map is dark and full of Terran. Clem's Terran, stutter stepping into the planetary. There's no tanks to defend, which means it's a relatively easy kill. That's going to force the issue. 10 SCVs and a clutch base here. Clem finds the opportunity to split off some units and gets a clean kill on a planetary that Heromarine cannot return. He continues the push. The army supply is near even. The upgrades near even. +1 mech armor for Clem is the only advantage. The tanks boxing out the Marines, which means Heromarine takes a decisive engagement and knocks Clem off his lawn. Very large lawn. A scan launching for bases. Clem sees it as well. Clem scan a little more on the money. Of course, Heromarine didn't need to see the top left base. He knows it's there. The income's now heavily in favor of Clem after knocking out a planetary. But, oh, not really expecting tanks in this position. The forward sensor tower given a little bit of an advantage and knowledge of when to scan. The tank count right now, 13-7 in favor of Big Gabe. But where are they allocated? Where are the pieces moving? Oh, Clem is going to try to break this. This is a tough position here. He's losing a lot of Marines, but he will get the first bit of the tanks. Meanwhile, Heromarine going for the throne, it looks like. Clem had a few tanks on the high ground. Are those going to be enough? No, but they're going to help. Clem, meanwhile, trying to outflank Heromarine in a similar fashion. The top corners here. Looking for more. The planetary, he retreats from it. The tanks, the boys pulled. Meanwhile, Clem trying to take a position, shelling the SCVs from the high ground and shelling the planetary from the back of the base. The corners traded here. A slower, more methodical process for both players, but those corner bases are effectively rendered defunct. Oh, Clem trying to come in from both angles here. Marine holds his ground. Tanks will siege. A whole lot on the high ground. Clem beaten back on his own territory. This is a turning point. The fact that Heromarine took out this base and held on to his army while winning a fight. But wait, now Heromarines trying to break out of his own base might suffer from the same issue as his tank count already down to 1. Clem holds a strong outpost on the high ground. Heromarine suddenly down 20 supply. The Marines split, tanking some of the tank shots, and Clem returns the favor of a high ground set of tanks. Suddenly he's back 20 supply up. They're both struggling for income now. The disparity has gotten smaller, but the incomes themselves have as well. What is it? What is the tank count? 10 to 11. 8 to 10 in the medevacs. There are 5 Vikings for Clem. He's actually been using them. I don't know about this. There are several Marines in front. 4 tanks. Is that enough? A bit of an awkward split there. Heromarine finally cleans up the bottom right, and Clem, a false start jump with his Marines means that these tanks are deadly. But he takes the badly bruised medevac and does what all the other Marines could not. Drops right on top of Surgical Strike and takes out 4 tanks for the price of next to nothing. If only he had done that to start, it could look a lot different here. Heromarine, that's his main for what it is. Not for much longer at this rate. Liberator going to help push back these tanks, but the high ground just bloody. So many Marines have died. 360 versus 424 for Heromarine. We're looking at over 1,000 by the end of this. Clem starting to take decisive advantages left, right, and indeed center. Heromarine drives him off the base. The command center is burning, and so is Heromarines' position in this game. The income in favor of Clem, the supply in favor of Clem, the position in favor of Clem. Heromarine needs to hold on to this base. He's running out of mineral patches. This is the only base with mining. Oh, snapped up 1, 2, 3 medevacs. Okay, didn't have anything in them, but free medevacs are free medevacs. You know what they say. Liberator with next to no HP. Clem looking to lay down the decisive blow. Can he break this position? Heromarine finds another base to mine from. He has to just move around orbitals at this point. That was his natural now. moved over to the bottom right. Clem is on, like, one more win. One more decisive victory, and Clem has this locked down. But Heromarine not going to give it up yet. One more round. The medevac giving vision. Heromarine, how is he going to hold this? A few of the boys buffering for the tank. There's only one tank. There's not enough here for Big Gabe. This is a key base. Everything's a key base now. The medevacs, the SCVs, the orbital command, the game! Heromarine has to make some moves. Quickly. He's running out of options. The boys are pulled. The last stand of Big Gabe. Using them to buffer. That's so many tanks! And it's not nearly enough. He stops them. He stuffs them. He shuts them down. Clem is pushing both sides. He holds his ground at the front. Heromarine not going to tap it out just yet. Not while he has Marines to label heroes. But at the end of the day, they might be martyrs. He's down double supply. The planetary gone. It was a placeholder at best now. 25 SCVs. Breaks out of another clutch of tanks. But the natural, the production, and everything else. Clem takes it. GG! In an epic back and forth. 487 Marines and 45 tanks lost for Heromarine against 50 tanks and 405 Marines of Clem. Dozens of Vikings and medevacs and innocent SCVs. What a game. Hopefully you enjoyed. I did. A great match between two of the top Europeans. What do you think? Can Clem dethrone Big Gabe and win every ESL Pro Tour held on Mondays? Check play.eslgaming.com and sign up to waste Heromarine's time in the first round today. After liking and subscribing, ring the bell in this video. TVT, is it the best mirror matchup, or are you wrong? Thank you for watching. Good luck, and have fun.